Hi everyone, welcome back to the social media Simternship from Stukent. In this video, we will go through round one, our first organic social post round. So we'll start out by going through each of these components over here on the left-hand side. When we get down to creating our organic content, we will make 3 posts together for this video and then submit them so we can review our feedback and scores. So to go through, first we want to watch this scenario. We've got a 1.5-second video. So we want to watch that. And then after that, we'll scroll down and look at our assignment information. So for this week, we want to review the market information, including our research reports, the audit, and the social media guide. These will all be in our documents over here. Then we're going to be creating organic posts to advertise Buoy's products. So they are telling us here, remember, you should be posting frequently. We'll talk about what that means in just a second, but I can tell you this is the most common pitfall or downfall with students is that they don't post enough. They'll create just a handful of posts and think that's good enough, and it's not. We also want to make sure we respond to the questions that are up here in the chat. So we'll get to these in just a second. Let's talk about the goals for our organic social posts. So in these first 3 rounds, to score 100% in this simulation in each round, you need to have a minimum of 60,000 impressions and a minimum of $4,500 in revenue. If you achieve both of these for each round, you'll earn 100%. If you score less on the impressions and less in the revenue, your score will decrease based on the impressions and the revenue that you did generate. Okay, let's click up here to our inbox now. As a reminder, you will have this inbox with a message from the vice president at the start of every single round. So in this round, we have Naomi. She's telling us here that we've got a busy first week and we're jumping right in. First thing we want to do is analyze the data that's been given to us. She says she's attached some reports that will provide you with data on the types of posts. So we've got our documents here, and they are also included down at the bottom. So we want to make sure to take our time to review these as they do provide relevant information. They help us decide when to post, what time of day to post, the content we want to post, channels we want to post on, all that kind of information. So we'll open these guys up in just a second. Then we also do want to respond to the messages in the chat. So up here, these chat, we have 3 unread messages that we're going to respond to in just a second. And then moving forward, it's telling us this week we need to do the following. Review the historical data. Okay, that's in our documents. We need to allocate our budget. So we've been given $1,500 for each organic social post round. In each round, you do want to spend your entire budget. There's no benefit in saving your budget. It does not roll over into future rounds. Then here we want to come up and select our content and schedule our organic posts. Strong recommendation is to share at least 6 high-quality organic posts across the highest performing channels. So that's a minimum of 6 posts per platform. And it tells us even more would be ideal. All right, let's go ahead and now look at our chat messages. So in each of these, we'll have several chat messages where we have someone writing in, tells us, welcome to the Buoy team. This is my first time designing social media. I'm unfamiliar with some of the terms. What exactly are social media engagements? So you would look through each of these, select the correct one, and hit send. And you would do the same thing for each of the chat messages. So I'll let you guys respond to each of those on your own. And we want to click over now to our market information. As a reminder, this is the same market information we had in the last video. So we had all of our products listed out here, then we had our market, and we had those 7 different customer profiles, and then just a little bit of information on our budget again. Okay, let's get into the documents that are provided to us. So these 3 are the same documents that were provided in our inbox. And each of these provides valuable information as we're starting to create our organic posts, which we'll do in just a second. So first, let's look at our Reynolds Research Report. This gives us social media marketing trends. So I can see on this report, we've got ad spend by channel. So this will be really important for us. Especially as we get into our paid rounds. We have top revenue generating platforms, fastest growing platform, budget distribution across each channel, and our market competition. So we've got 3 competitors listed, and we can see how many posts they are making per week on each platform. So on Facebook, we can see that they're making an average of, let's say, maybe about 7 posts per week. So as a reminder, each round is 1 week. So here, this is kind of giving us the idea that we need to make about 7 Facebook posts across the week. Pinterest, it looks like we're making about 2 or 3 posts. X, we're making closer to 9 or 10. TikTok, maybe 3 or 4, YouTube, maybe about 1, and then Instagram, about 5 posts per week. So remember, I mentioned earlier, this is the biggest problem I see with my students is that they don't make enough posts. Okay. All right. So that's the end of our marketing trends report. Let's go back up and look at our social media audit. And in our social media audit, we have a little bit of an overview giving us information from the past 12 months. As I scroll through this, I can see that I've got my reach, engagements, conversions based on each platform. So we can see that Facebook and Instagram are going to have the highest reach. But then one thing to note is that Instagram is the highest engagement by a lot. So there's not as much difference here between Facebook and Instagram in my reach. But if I'm trying to create engagement, Instagram is going to be the platform that I do want to focus on for that. However, if I'm trying to focus on conversions, I'm trying to drive that revenue. Again, Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok aren't all that far apart. We can see that YouTube down here is not a high performer on any of these metrics. So we want to keep that in mind as we're creating posts because we likely don't need to make as many posts on YouTube as we would want to on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay, continuing to scroll through, we now get into each individual platform's audience. So to start, we have Facebook. We can see reach, engagement, conversions. We can see the breakdown of gender, the location, income, education. And then we can also see total population percentage by age for Facebook. And then one thing we definitely want to come back to as we're creating our organic posts is these best times to post on each platform. So we'll have one of these sheets for every single platform. So we just had Facebook, now we have Instagram, then we have TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and X. Lastly, down here at the bottom, we have some advertising strategies. So we can look at how often people are going to interact with different elements. We can see one thing I want to point out here is static images. We've got lower interactions on TikTok and YouTube. So these are going to be better if we have obviously video content. So we do kind of want to take a look at each of these to figure out what content is best going to suit each of these platforms and each of our audiences. Another thing we want to see down here at the bottom is the character count for each channel. So posts that do well on Facebook have anywhere from 40 to 150 characters. And then we can see the same thing across each of the different platforms. Okay, so that was a very brief overview of our social media audit, but you guys can go through each of these platforms individually and look at the main elements to see what income should I be focusing on X, for example. Then what time should I actually be creating posts? So I can see my lowest engagement is the lighter colors. My highest engagement here is the darker colors. And so again, we'll come back to these when we actually start making our posts. One thing I have done in the past is I have created a spreadsheet that lists out a lot of that information. So I've got each platform here broken out, and I've got the statistics, gender, income, age ranges, education, location. I mentioned in the last video, I broke out each of our target audiences. And so I've listed those here. Then I've just kind of listed out our audience by the platform they would use, the number of personas that are on each platform, some metrics that are kind of listed in here as well. I encourage you to do something similar if you are interested in kind of keeping everything straight. All right, let's jump into creating our social posts now. So for this video, I'm going to create 3 posts with you, and then we will run the round and review our feedback. So this lists out for us our steps in creating our posts. So it tells us to analyze our data. We did that briefly. I encourage you to do that even more. Look at all of the information in more detail. Then we need to select the platform we want to use. We're going to create our post, schedule our post, and then review our budget. So as a reminder, we have $1,500 and we do want to use the entire amount. You can scroll down and watch this organic post walkthrough video that will give you some information on how to create your posts as well. All right, so first thing we want to do is create new content. So for this video, 3 posts. My first one is going to be on Instagram. I'm going to create a post for Daypacker Tom. I'm going to create a post. So I'll click on post. Then I'm going to click on add media. And in this add media section, we have all of our media. We've got everything listed out that you can choose from. Purchased media after you've made a purchase for certain items. We have images, we have infographics, we have short form videos, and then we have longer form videos. So I'm going to come over here to all, and I'm going to select or search for hiking. And I am going to select the Woodland Archer. A man in hiking gear kneels beside a backpack in a forest. So I will click this one. This cost $550, so I've got $950 remaining. My caption is going to say, Trail today, office tomorrow. The OG backpack is built for both. Pack your gear, grab your laptop, and get outside. I'm going to add 3 hashtags as well. Adventure Ready, OG Backpack, Weekend Escape. And because I'm focused on the OG backpack, I'm going to add a URL that will take the audience to that OG backpack. And now I need to schedule my post. So if I go back to my documents, I'm on Instagram. If I scroll down to find Instagram, I can look at the top engagement times listed here. And I am going to select Wednesday at 11 a.m. So I can see that this is one of my highest engagement times. So I'll come back over to my posts. I'm going to schedule it on Wednesday at 11 a.m. and then click schedule post. So here I can see, let's see what happened to my URL. Let's schedule that again. There we go. We updated it. So we can see all of our information. Okay, for our second post, I am going to create a post for Back to School Mindy. So our backpacker Tom was our first post, so he is 30% of our audience. Back to School Mindy is our next highest percentage at 17%. So this next post will be for Back to School Mindy. So I'm going to use TikTok. And this time my caption is going to say, "What's in my college backpack?" So for this one, I'll click Add Media, and I'm going to search for backpack. But because this is Back to School Mindy, we are looking at college. So I would not want to pick something that has a snowy trail hike or a desert scout. Instead, I want something that is focused on college. So options that I might choose from, I could do courtyard study, fashionable young woman. I could do campus ready, stylish young woman, probably a university student. That one could work. I might also select campus group laugh for young adults, stand outside on campus laughing and talking with their backpacks on. So I've got several options to choose from. I'm going to end up picking the Studio Joy because we can see in the backpack it's full of supplies. So I'm going to pick this one. And I'll want to add a URL again. In my URL, this one I'm going to pick the Aurora backpack. That looks relatively similar. If I go over to my audit, I can look at my engagement times. For this post, I'm going to select Thursday at 4 p.m. So here I can see that 4 p.m. is one of my highest engagement times on Thursday. So I'll scroll to pick Thursday at 4 p.m. and click schedule. Okay, for our last post, we are going to focus on up-and-comer Raj. So that is 14% of our total market. So our next highest after our Daypacker Tom, Back to School Mindy. And for up-and-comer Raj, I am going to create a post on Facebook. And this time we're going to create a reel. And I want to create my caption first. So I'm going to have first impressions matter. The legacy messenger keeps your laptop documents and essentials organized wherever work takes you. So now I want to add my media. I'm going to search for Messenger. So I've got my Messenger bag. So here we've got someone at the airport ready for travel with their Messenger bag. This one could work. We could also do a travel pause. I think for this one, we will select the travel ready post. And just to kind of keep in mind our budget, so we used $950 on our previous two posts. So I have $550 left. And for this post, it will cost me $550. These are things to keep in mind when you are creating your own posts, that some of the media can get very expensive and your budget can be gone very quickly. So let's go ahead and keep scheduling this post. So we've got our legacy messenger bag. So we'll do a link to that. And if we went back again, looked at our social media audit for Facebook, we would see that a top time on Facebook is Tuesdays at around 10 a.m. So for this one, I'm going to schedule it on Tuesday at 10 in the morning. And then I'm going to click schedule reel. So here we can see that I've got all three of my posts scheduled now, and I'm out of budget. For you guys going forward, you would likely not want to spend quite as much on each post because every single media has some associated cost with it. So if I click on Instagram and let's pretend we're making another post, every single type of media has a cost. Some of them are expensive. This one is $600. This one's $2,500. But if you scroll through, you'll notice that there are a lot of images that are lower in budget. So if I keep scrolling down, here I've got one for $30. I can see there are others for $20, $75, $50, $20. So when you're creating your posts, you want to be very mindful of your budget. If you pick a post that is $500 or a media that's $500, sorry, you're not going to be able to make as many posts. If you create posts at $50, your budget is going to go a lot further. So these are things you really want to keep in mind as you're creating your posts for each round. All right, I'm going to delete this post for now. And for the purposes of the video, we're going to go ahead and click next. So that'll take us here to review and submit the round. So I can see I didn't answer all of the chat messages. I'm going to make you guys do that on your own. So we can go ahead and still submit the round, even though it reminded you to do that. So now it tells me my results are processing. It can take a couple of minutes. Okay, so the results processed and we can click on start round 2. So here we can see that my overall score for this round was 80%. So I did not meet the impressions goal. So I can see I only got 30 out of the 50 possible points for that based on the number of impressions I received. And then my revenue, I did receive the highest points because my revenue did exceed the $4,500 listed amount. All right, we're going to pause here on this video. And then when we come back for round 2, we'll look at the feedback from round 1, and then we'll create some additional organic posts. All right, see you guys next video.